One of the great things about the nature of the cloud is how it can commoditize and make easily accessible all sorts of services that would have actually been really hard to obtain in a pre-cloud world. So for example, we used to put a huge amount of effort into disaster recovery and business continuity plans, not least of which because it's hard to have things like off-site backups and the ability to roll over into other infrastructure in a remote location should there be any catastrophic failures within a data center. When you're in the cloud though, you start to have a bunch of options about how you're going to respond in the event of a disaster. Let me give you an example of what I mean. Let's go and take a new resource, and we'll drop down to data and storage, and we'll take a new storage account. So this is Microsoft's concept that has blobs, tables, queues, and file storage. They have those 4 different constructs that all sit within this umbrella of storage. Now here's what's really neat when you create storage in this as a service sort of way. We can drop down to Replication and choose where we want our data to be replicated to. So for example, do you just have locally redundant storage? In which case Microsoft will keep 3 different copies of the data within one data center. So you still have plenty of redundancy, but it's all there in that one location. Or do you go to zone redundant storage, where now the data is replicated into a different data center? So you've got a little bit of redundancy in case there's any sort of catastrophic failure within one data center. Alternatively, you go to geo-redundant storage, and now it's not only in another data center, but it's in another data center in a remote location. Now, none of those models allow you to actually read from the data in those other locations, unless you go to Read Access Geo-Redundant Storage. And now your data exists in 2 geographically disparate locations, and you can read from that second location. So that starts to give you options about how you fail over to somewhere else should something catastrophic happen. From a disaster recovery and business continuity perspective, this is a really valuable service. And it's also very valuable as a protection against numerous security threats, because we've actually got the data in a remote location as well. So in the case of, say, destruction, there's another copy in another location. And further to that, most good cloud services also have numerous backup options as well, versioned backup options. So the point I'm trying to make with all this is that paradigms such as storage redundancy can be enormously useful if you go and configure them appropriately in the portal. This is a feature that was very hard to implement in the pre-cloud world, at least without spending large amounts of money. So that's data replication and redundancy. Let's go and take a look at how we can harden our communications over the transport layer.